Good morning, New York. Good morning to every borough and every block. It is 7 o'clock on Tuesday, the 6th of November, 1956, and you are tuned to WKNY, 1240 on your AM dial. I'm Frank Calloway. This is the Morning Pulse, and I want you to take a breath before we start, because today is one of those mornings where the news is so large, so heavy, and comes from so many directions at once that it takes a moment to simply absorb the fact that all of it is happening simultaneously on the same planet. We have an election. We have a war in the Middle East. We have Soviet tanks in the streets of Budapest. And John Foster Dulles, the Secretary of State of the United States, the man Eisenhower depends on to hold the diplomatic line in this Cold War, is in surgery at Walter Reed Hospital this morning. Pour the coffee. We have a lot of ground to cover. Let's begin where most Americans are beginning this morning. Election Day. Today, the American people go back to the polls for a rematch. Dwight David Eisenhower, the general, the hero of Normandy, the 34th President of the United States, is running for a second term against Democrat Adlai Stevenson of Illinois. This is, you will recall, the exact same contest we had 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, it wasn't particularly close. Ike won 39 states to Stevenson's 9 and carried 442 electoral votes. This time around, nothing in the polling suggests the result will be different. If anything, and this is what makes Stevenson's position almost philosophically tragic, the president is more popular now than he was in '52, despite the fact that he suffered a serious heart attack just 13 months ago, in September of '55. The man had major surgery, spent weeks in the hospital, and the American public looked at that and said, "Still our man." Stevenson has argued hard this campaign. He called for an end to the nuclear draft. He's proposed a test ban treaty with the Soviets. And in recent weeks, he has hammered relentlessly on the question of Ike's age and health. He told audiences last night he fears the advance of Vice President Nixon, a man Stevenson suggested would be far more dangerous with the keys to the White House. His running mate, Senator Estes Kefauver of Tennessee, warned of what he called Republican poll tricks designed to suppress votes. Senator Kefauver also mentioned a curious detail. He claims the GOP has been running something he describes as a fifth column of voter intimidation, specifically targeting Democratic districts in key states. The Eisenhower campaign denies all of it. Meanwhile, out in New Hampshire, where the first returns always come in, early figures show Eisenhower leading by a ratio of 255 to 100, which is a margin consistent with everything the national polls have been telling us all fall. Polls close at different times across the country. The big results: New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois. Those will come in tonight. But I will tell you what I believe sitting here right now at 7 in the morning. Barring something nobody can predict, Dwight Eisenhower wins a second term today. The only question is, by how much? And now, Elvin Heartley is back, and this time he's got something to say to a no-good, lying, cheating... Well, folks, you'll get the picture real fast. Ain't Welcome back. Before we turn to Hungary and the Suez, and we will get there, one piece of Washington news that has been overshadowed by the larger crises, but deserves your attention. John Foster Dulles is in Walter Reed Army Medical Center this morning. The Secretary of State underwent emergency surgery yesterday for what the White House describes as a perforated bowel. He is expected to recover. Reports this morning suggest improvement, and the expectation is that he will return to duty in due course, though not immediately. Now, I want you to understand what this means in context. John Foster Dulles is not simply a cabinet officer. He is Eisenhower's foreign policy in human form. This is the man who has been flying around the globe. 450,000 miles in 3 years in office, holding together NATO, managing our relationships in the Middle East, trying to contain Soviet expansion. And now he is on an operating table while Budapest burns, and British and French paratroopers are in Egypt. The administration is handling it. Deputy secretaries are filling in. Eisenhower himself is fully engaged. But there is no understudy for John Foster Dulles. The timing is, to put it mildly, brutal. Well, Doris Daye has the most calming philosophy in show business. And frankly, folks, we could all use a little of it right now.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? She smiled and said to me, whatever the wind decides, decides. Whatever the wind decides, the sky will clear and the sun will shine. Whatever the wind decides. When I grew up and fell in love, I asked my sweetheart what lies ahead. Will there be rainbows day after day? He smiled and this is what he said. Whatever the wind decides, decides. Whatever the wind decides. Just take my hand and we'll find our way. Whatever the wind decides. Now I have children of my own. They ask me, Mother, what will I see? I smile and pull them close and say, the same thing was said to me. Whatever the wind decides, decides. Whatever the wind decides. The future's bright for the ones who smile. Whatever the wind decides.
All right, Hungary. I am going to take some time with this because I think many Americans, good people, busy people, may not fully understand what has been happening in Budapest over the past 2 weeks. And it is a story that deserves to be understood. Go back to October the 23rd. Students in Budapest, young people, university students, not unlike the young men and women at Columbia or NYU, took to the streets demanding something very specific: freedom from Soviet domination. Hungary, since the end of the Second World War, has been a satellite state of the Soviet Union. Its government is not elected by its people. It is installed and maintained by Moscow. The secret police are feared. The press is controlled. Russian language study is mandatory in schools. These students had heard Nikita Khrushchev's speech earlier this year, in which the Soviet leader himself denounced the crimes of Stalin. They took that as a signal that change was possible. On October 23rd, they marched. The demonstration grew. Workers joined them. Then soldiers joined them. Within days, the whole country was in revolt. The Soviets appeared briefly to negotiate. They pulled their troops back. A reformist prime minister, a man named Imre Nagy, took power, and he did something extraordinary. He announced that Hungary was withdrawing from the Warsaw Pact, the Soviet bloc's military alliance, the Eastern equivalent of NATO. He asked for Western help. He spoke on the radio, and what he said in those broadcasts was heard around the world. Then, on November the 4th, 2 days ago, the answer came back from Moscow. Not diplomacy, not negotiation. 17 Soviet divisions. Marshal Ivan Konev, the same man who led Soviet forces into Berlin in '45, launched what Moscow called Operation Whirlwind. At 3 in the morning, tanks crossed the Danube into Budapest along 2 routes simultaneously. By dawn, they controlled all the bridges. Prime Minister Nagy went on the radio one last time. "Our troops are fighting," he said. "The government is in its place." And then, at 7:25 in the morning, the Budapest radio signal went silent. When it came back on at 8:15, it was in Soviet hands. Since then, the fighting has continued in pockets. Freedom fighters, ordinary Hungarians, many of them armed with nothing more than Molotov cocktails against Soviet tanks, have been holding out in neighborhoods across the city. The Corvin Passage, Czena Square, young men and women fighting with bottles of gasoline against the best armored force in the world. Today's reports are grim. Moscow is now calling this a mop-up operation. Insurgent radio stations, clandestine broadcasts that have been our only window into what is happening on the ground, report street fighting continuing. One broadcast this morning said simply, "We are still here." The Soviets have offered to send their own aid to Hungary and are explicitly barring any Western assistance from entering the country. The United States has said nothing that amounts to action. There will be those who criticize Eisenhower for that. I will say this: we are not going to war with the Soviet Union over Hungary. Eisenhower knows it. Moscow knows it. The people fighting in the streets of Budapest may know it too. That knowledge does not make what is happening any less of a catastrophe. An estimated 2,500 Hungarians have been killed. 200,000 more are already fleeing toward Austria. And yet, and I want you to hold on to this, there is something in what those students started on October the 23rd that cannot be put back in a box. They showed the world that behind the Iron Curtain, there are people who want what we have. Not communism, not the Warsaw Pact. Freedom. At enormous cost, they showed it. History will remember them. Well, let's move on to something less serious. Little Richie is about to blow every single fuse in this radio station. And frankly, folks, we wouldn't have it any other way.
Wop, bam, boom, wop, bam, boom. She blew it like a hurricane and lit up the room. Wop, bam, boom. Wop, bam, boom. Oh, the wildest little woman from here to the moon. Got a girl named Stella
Now, the other fire, the one our own allies started. Let me explain Suez the same way I explained Hungary, from the beginning, because the beginning matters. The Suez Canal is a 100-mile waterway cut through Egypt that connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. It was built in the 1860s by a French and British company. It is, for practical purposes, the artery through which Britain receives its oil from the Persian Gulf. Control the canal, and you have Britain's thumb on its windpipe. That is not a metaphor. Prime Minister Anthony Eden said those exact words. In July of this year, Egypt's leader, Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser, a nationalist who came to power after a coup that ousted the monarchy 4 years ago, announced the nationalization of the Suez Canal. The canal company was foreign-owned. Its profits left Egypt, and Nasser wanted those revenues for Egypt. Specifically, he wanted to build the Aswan High Dam on the Nile, which the United States and Britain had refused to finance. Britain and France were furious. They regarded Nasser as a threat not only to the canal, but to their entire remaining influence in the Middle East and Africa. They spent months trying to find a diplomatic solution, and when diplomacy stalled, they did something that this administration was not informed of in advance. They made a secret deal with Israel. Israel would invade the Sinai Peninsula, giving Britain and France the pretext to intervene as peacekeepers. The plan was called Operation Musketeer. On October 29th, just days before this election, Israeli forces crossed into Sinai. The Israeli army moved fast, faster than the British and French had expected. British and French aircraft bombed Egyptian air bases. On November 5th and 6th, paratroopers landed at Port Said and Port Fouad at the northern end of the canal. And that is when something extraordinary happened. President Eisenhower, who had not been consulted, who had spent months trying to defuse this crisis diplomatically, was furious. Our NATO allies had lied to him. They had chosen the week of the American presidential election to launch a military adventure in the Middle East without telling Washington. Eisenhower went to the United Nations. He sponsored resolutions demanding a ceasefire. He blocked Britain from receiving emergency loans from the International Monetary Fund. And Britain, hemorrhaging money by the hour, desperately needed those loans. He told Eden, in terms that did not admit of misinterpretation, that the operation had to stop. Cairo has also been putting pressure on the world stage, appealing to all nations for arms and volunteers, and charging that Britain and France are using American-built equipment, an allegation that adds a particularly uncomfortable dimension to an already complicated situation for Washington. Today, this very morning as you listen to this, a ceasefire has been accepted. It comes into effect at midnight tonight. Britain and France will stop. They never reached the full length of the canal. The whole operation has been a military success and a political catastrophe of the first order. The consequences of Suez are going to take years to fully understand. What is already clear, Britain and France went to war without American approval, without UN approval, and had to be pulled back by American pressure. That is not what alliances are supposed to look like. The British have just learned something about the limits of their power that the Second World War obscured. They are no longer a superpower. They need us. And Nasser, the man they set out to destroy, emerges from this as a hero across the Arab world. Egypt appealed to the United Nations this morning to retain its seat at international bodies. And the broader message from Cairo is clear. We resisted the European empires, and we won. And now, Tennessee Ernest Ford is hauling 16 tons of pure American grit straight into your living room. And brother, you better get out of the way.
Some people say a man is made of muscle and blood. Muscle and blood and bone and sweat and mud. I was born one morning when the whistle blew. Company store got everything before I'm through. 20 years in the ground. 20 years in the ground. The foreman hollers and I don't make a sound. I owe my soul and I owe my back. 20 years in the ground and I can't look back. I was born one morning in the pouring rain. Picked up a shovel and I felt the pain. Left hand iron and my right hand too. If the right one don't get you, then the left one do. 20 years in the ground. 20 years in the ground. St. Peter, don't you call me 'cause I can't be found. I owe my life to the company man. 20 years in the ground. Dig while you can.
A brief note from the international desk before we turn to local news. UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, has voted to retain nationalist China, meaning the government in Taiwan as its recognized member state, rejecting an attempt by India to seat the communist government in Beijing instead. This is consistent with broader American policy, which continues to recognize Taipei as the legitimate government of China. The vote is a small diplomatic victory, but a symbolically significant one. Let's back to the music. Frankie Limon is asking the question every teenager on this planet has asked themselves at least once. And honey, none of us have the answer.
Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why the heart won't listen. Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why the heart won't listen. Tell
closer to home now, and your New York Digest for this Tuesday morning. In the courts, an executor in Manhattan has been charged with stealing $38,000 from an estate under his care. The case involves the misappropriation of funds belonging to a deceased client, and prosecutors say the money was systematically siphoned over several years. A reminder, if one is needed, that trust is the most expensive thing you can give anyone in this city. Across the river in New Jersey, a fire over the weekend razed a commercial property in Jersey. The business is a total loss, and investigators are looking at the cause. And separately, New Jersey state officials are asking for a review of a federal ruling affecting ferry service across the Hudson. The ferries are a lifeline for commuters, and any changes to their operating status get felt quickly on both banks of the river. And the Protestant Council of New York is taking up a study on racial bias in the city's public schools. Church leaders on the council are convening to address what many in the community describe as a systematic disadvantage being visited on Negro children in certain school districts. The Board of Education has been slow to respond. The churches are now saying, if the city won't act, the community will organize. Worth watching. Well, Gene Vincenzo is cruising in real slow tonight, folks. And trust me, you don't want him to speed up.
Ooh-wee, ooh, my baby. She's the one I mean. Ooh-wee, ooh, my baby. Coolest girl I've seen. She walks real slow down the midnight street. Every single boy just stops and stares at her feet. Well, she's my baby. Yeah, she's my girl. She's the kind of woman gonna rock your world. Moves like smoke in a neon light. Ooh-wee, ooh, my baby, every single night. Ooh-wee, ooh, my baby, she don't say much. Ooh-wee, ooh, my baby, dangerous to touch. She leans against the wall with a cigarette glow. The slowest burning fire that I'll ever know.
To the sports desk, and a few items worth your attention this Tuesday morning. First, and this is genuinely something to celebrate, Bill Hartack rode 4 winners at Garden State Park yesterday, pushing his total for the season to numbers that are going to set records. Let me tell you a little about this young man, because he deserves it. Hartack is 23 years old. He grew up in coal country in Pennsylvania, Ebensburg, Cambria County, the kind of town where the coal mines are the only real employer, and everybody knows it. His father went down into those mines. His mother died in a car accident when Bill was 8. He found his way to the racetrack as a stable boy at 17, and within 5 years, he was the leading jockey in America. This year, he is on a pace that may make him the first jockey in history to earn $2 million in a single season, in purse money alone. He also won the Preakness Stakes this spring with Fabius out of Calumet Farm, and yesterday's 4 winners at Garden State simply adds to what is already a historic year. Somebody asked him recently how he explains his success. He said, "I want to win more than the horse wants to stop." That's the kind of man he is. The Brooklyn Dodgers. Your Dodgers, my Dodgers, this city's Dodgers, even though they are now apparently spending time in Japan, were rained out in their overseas tour. The Dodgers have been barnstorming through Japan since the World Series, and a rainout is a rainout, whether you're in Ebbetsfield or Tokyo. The team has not yet made any formal announcement about their future plans, but the rumor that they may be leaving Brooklyn for the West Coast refuses to die. I am not going to pretend that doesn't keep certain New Yorkers up at night. And in college football, Bill Swiacki, the head coach at Columbia, has announced he will step down at the end of this season. Swiacki was himself a remarkable end for Columbia and the New York Giants in an earlier era. Coaching has not replicated his playing career, and he is stepping away. The Lion program will be looking for new leadership. Elvin Heartley just checked into a hotel you never want to visit. And brother, once you hear this, you ain't checking out either.
Well, since my baby walked out, I found a new place I can dwell. It's down at the end of a lonesome road, at the Midnight Glow Motel. I'm so empty, baby. I'm so empty, baby. I'm so empty, baby. I could die. Although the neon sign still burns, the parking lot stays cold and bare. They've been so long on this empty strip, they'll never quite get there. I'm so empty, baby. I'm so empty, baby. I'm so empty. I could die. The room is dark, the bed is cold. The silence echoes through the wall. I hear the trucks roll by at midnight,
inside the Mayville Motel. I'm so empty, baby. I'm so empty, baby. I'm so empty.
Some culture to lighten the morning, because Lord knows we need it. The Metropolitan Opera opened its new season Monday night with Il Trovatore, Verdi, which in this city is never a small event. The night belonged to Zinka Milanov, the Yugoslav soprano who has been one of the fixtures of this house for over a decade. The Herald Tribune's reviewer put it plainly. When Milanov is up to snuff, there is nothing quite like it anywhere. Last night, apparently, she was very much up to snuff. The audience went, in the reviewer's words, unrestrainedly berserk. Leonard Warren was in the cast, as was baritone Giorgio Tosi. Max Rudolph conducted. If you have never been to the Met, this is as good a reason as any to go. At the cinema, Death of a Scoundrel is opening at Lewes State this week. The picture stars George Sanders, who has made a career of playing men you wouldn't trust with your wallet, and tells the story of a rogue who charms his way to the top of society before it all comes apart. Given everything that has happened in the world this week, a film about a charming scoundrel getting his comeuppance is perhaps what the doctor ordered. On the book pages, the Times this morning reviews a 3-minute anthology of sorts, a wide-ranging collection that the critic describes as surveying a man who knew the world he lived in. In a week like this one, that phrase lands differently. Knowing the world you live in feels like both the simplest and most difficult thing imaginable. And a sad note for the music world. Rae Robertson, the 63-year-old Scottish pianist, celebrated for his two-piano partnership with his wife, Ethel Bartlett, has passed away. Robertson and Bartlett brought the two-piano repertoire to new audiences on both sides of the Atlantic for 30 years. He will be missed. But let's move on. Carl Perkins has just one rule in this world, folks, and it's got everything to do with what's on his feet.
Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the road. 3 to get ready now, baby, let's go. But don't you touch my lucky hat. Don't you touch my lucky hat. Don't you touch my lucky hat. You can do anything but stay away from that. Burn down my house, flood my yard, take my car keys, hit me hard. But don't you touch my lucky hat. Don't you touch my lucky hat. Don't you touch my lucky hat. You can do anything but stay away from that.
A couple of items from the business and oddities desk before we close out. The stock market, despite the Suez Crisis, despite Hungary, despite everything, registered a strong advance on Monday, with trading volume reaching its highest level in 5 months. Wall Street's logic, if you can call it that. War and crisis in the Middle East means oil prices go up, which means energy stocks benefit. There is something both impressive and faintly unsettling about the market's ability to find opportunity in catastrophe. That is the market for you. And from Stockholm, the liner. Stockholm. You may remember that ship's name from the Andrea Doria collision earlier this year, when the two vessels struck each other off the coast of Nantucket with catastrophic results. The Stockholm has been repaired and is making trial runs at sea again. It is, apparently, seaworthy. Whether passengers will board it is a different question. Also in the business world, American Viscose has matched industrial rayon tire yarn prices, which sounds technical, but tells us something about manufacturing competition in the synthetic fiber sector. The post-war materials economy continues to churn. Morris Stolovsky is about to make every couple in America slow dance, whether they plan to or not. before we move on to the final thoughts, let's listen to one more wonderful new release. Little Richie's back on the air, and I'm legally required to warn you. Your furniture may not survive this one.
I'm gonna tell you about a girl I know. Big bad fella puts on quite a show. She's tall and wild with a laugh so loud. Every man in town follows through the crowd. Well, big bad fella, she's something to see. Uncle Johnny's watching, but he can't let it be. Marie went looking, but she couldn't find. Big bad fella, she was way behind. Big bad fella, oh big bad fella. Big bad fella, she was my kind of girl. We're gonna have some fun tonight. Big bad fella, gonna rock my world. Well, the boys all holler and the girls all stare. Big bad fella got that midnight hair. He moves so fast that you can't keep up. One look from Bella and you're out of luck. Big bad fella, big bad fella, big bad fella, she was my kind of girl. We're gonna have some fun tonight. Big bad fella, gonna rock my world. Big bad fella, big bad fella, big bad fella, she was my kind of girl. We're gonna have some fun tonight. Big bad fella, gonna rock my world.
All right. We have been at this for the better part of an hour, and I want to close with something I've been sitting with all morning. Today is Election Day in America. People will go into booths all across this country and pull a lever. And that act, that quiet, ordinary act, is something that cannot happen in Budapest right now. It cannot happen in Cairo without a gun pointed at it. It cannot happen in Moscow at all. I am not going to tell you who to vote for. I never do. That's not what this program is for. But I will say this. The act of voting is not separate from what is happening in Hungary. It is the answer to it. Those students who took to the streets of Budapest 2 weeks ago with their 16-point list of demands, freedom of speech, free elections, the withdrawal of Soviet troops. They were asking for what you have in your hands today, the right to choose. Now, I am under no illusions about American politics. We have our own corruption, our own chicanery, our own Senator Kefauver talking about fifth columns and poll tricks. Our democracy is not a perfect instrument. It is a battered, complicated, sometimes infuriating instrument. But it is ours, and it is real. And today, it works. The world this morning is in serious trouble. The Suez has exposed something painful about our alliances, that even our closest friends will lie to us when they think their vital interests are at stake. That is worth knowing. Hungary has exposed something even more painful, that we have limits, that there are things happening behind the Iron Curtain that we cannot stop with anything short of a war. We are not prepared to fight. That is also worth knowing. But I will tell you what I also know. John Foster Dulles is going to recover from that surgery and come back to work, because men like that do not go quietly. Eisenhower is going to be president for another 4 years, and whatever you think of him, he is not a man who makes reckless decisions. The Hungarian people who are fleeing westward right now, 200,000 of them, walking toward Austria in November. They are going to need homes, and some of them are going to find their way here, to this city, to this country. We have done it before. We can do it again. And somewhere in all of this mess, the tanks and the paratroopers and the ceasefire and the election and the Secretary of State in surgery. Zinka Milanov sang Verdi at the Metropolitan Opera last night, and the audience went berserk. New York did what New York does. It kept moving. It kept living. It kept being itself. That is not a small thing. On a morning like this one, that is not a small thing at all. I'm Frank Calloway. You've been listening to the Morning Pulse on WKNY, 1240 on your AM dial. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 with the election results and everything that follows. Until then, take care of yourselves out there, New York. Today of all days, go vote.